ABC Listen. Podcasts, radio, news, music and more.
Hi, I'm Patricia Carvelis, the host of the Politics Now podcast, where I'm joined by the best of the ABC to break down the latest in politics, including, for the next little while, the wonderful Melissa Clark.
Oh, thanks, PK. That's right. For the next couple of weeks, I'll be joining you for the party room while Fran Kelly takes a break. And we'll keep on zooming out and taking stock of the week in politics and analyse what it really means for you. So follow Politics Now on the ABC Listen app so you never miss an episode.
It's one man against the might of the Victorian police force, but still, alleged police killer, Dezi Freeman, remains on the run. So how are police approaching the search, and how long are they willing to keep it going? Today, Vince Hurley, a criminologist and former police officer and hostage negotiator, on the likely police tactics and whether they should reconsider how they approach so-called sovereign citizens. I'm Sam Hawley on Gadigal land in Sydney. This is ABC News Daily. Vince, it's now about a week since 2 police officers were killed and another injured, allegedly by Dezi Freeman, and still the search is continuing. Tell me, are you surprised, given your experience in the police force, are you surprised that they can't find him?
I'm not surprised they can't find him, given it's dense bushland and the terrain is really rugged.
In the air and on the ground, 450 police continue to scour the rugged and snow-capped terrain surrounding Popunka in Victoria's Alpine region.
It has been another night of freezing conditions, but there's still been no sign of Dezi Freeman.
Helicopters are constant, circling tightly on specific areas, their search complicated by dense bushland said to be pocketed with old mine shafts and caves.
It's difficult terrain and we have to carefully work our way through it in our search patterns.
Police will be approaching it a number of different ways. There could be a grid search from left to right or right to left or north or south or east to west. And it could be breaking that grid search down into 200-metre lots or 500-metre square metres. But the police, when they locate him, won't automatically rush in. They will want to observe what his physical condition is like, and then based on that, they will make a number of different assumptions and come up with a couple of different plans as to when they believe the best time might be to try and apprehend him.
Right.
It will be also that where he is physically when they first find him, that it's not suitable to their operation. So in other words, if it's really dense, thick bushland, they might wait until he's into bushland that's a bit more open, or perhaps even when he's on top of a rock ledge.
Because the fear is, of course, that he's heavily armed.
Yeah, so the police will have an idea of the calibre and the power of the rifles. So they will then make sure that whatever they've got, long arms or rifles that they will have, or similar, if not more powerful. So the police will just take up a strategic position or positions, and they will work out what suits them at the best time to maximise their chances of him complying, because ultimately they want to bring him to court.
Well, a big problem, of course, has been the weather, but that would be a problem for the police, but also for the alleged offender, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be tough for both. But the benefit of the police is that they can be rotated through their 10 or 12-hour shifts, and they can come in fresh, they can go home, have a nice warm meal, go back to bed, recuperate, and it will be on a rotating basis. What has really helped the police will be every commissioner around Australia would have rung the Victorian Police Commissioner and said, whatever resources you want, you can have. So that could be support for vehicles to ferry those Victorian police to and from a location. It could be providing communication networks. It could be providing dog squads, for example. So the benefit for the police is that it's not going to be that physically draining over, even if it goes for 3 or 4 months, because the police will become rotated through. On top of that, the police will get to know the terrain really well during that time. So he is the one that is at the massive disadvantage being out there isolated on his own, even though he's supposed to be a very good bushman, and that could well be the case. But the police have, almost, I wouldn't say unlimited, but, more resources than they possibly need.
Although a big concern for police and Superintendent Brett Carhan is that he's being helped.
Last time I spoke in front of you, I appealed directly to Dezi Freeman to ring 000, and then we could work towards a surrender plan with him. I'm going to change tack a little bit and read into this what you will. I extend that invitation to anyone who's harbouring Dezi Freeman, who's considering harbouring Dezi Freeman, or know something about the people that are harbouring Dezi Freeman. That offer is absolutely out to you as well. You are committing an extremely serious crime.
The police would have some idea, because he's really quite specific, being a sovereign citizen. The police will know and have some intelligence holdings about type of individual or ideology, and they will be speaking to people who are associated with him to make sure they're not what the police would call aiding and abetting him. That doesn't necessarily mean that those individuals they speak to will be telling the police the truth, and the police will be aware of that. It's fairly common.
There is a view that he could also be what they label a prepper. So he could survive for quite some time in these conditions.
Yep, absolutely. So there's nothing to say, as you say, that he already hasn't had, firearms, ammunition, water, food, change of clothes, already stashed somewhere in a cave. That's a possibility, absolutely.
Well, his wife, Amelia Freeman, she issued a statement over the weekend sharing her sorrow over the death of the police officers, and she did urge her husband to contact police to come up with a surrender plan. But police have made some comments in relation to her cooperation.
In respect to the suspect's wife, what I'll say, it's two different things to be speaking with police and cooperating with police.
So she's not cooperating with police?
It's two different things.
Well, she's rejected any assertion that she shared her husband's extremist views, and she says she's lending her full support to police. Now, she'd be a pretty vital source, wouldn't she, of information for the police at this point?
Yeah, she would be a vital source, as would the son. And the police would be, asking them questions. But the thing is, whether she tells the police anything, so when the police speak to her, they will take what she says with a grain of salt. That will all go towards collecting part of the profile of him and his way of thinking.
Well, his wife and the police have been urging him to contact them and come up with this, as we said, surrender plan. What does that mean? Would police offer some sort of concession of some type? What is a surrender plan?
No, the police won't offer any concessions. So a surrender plan, they'll have a couple of ideas in mind, and it would be dependent upon his frame of mind, and it would be depending on the geography of where it actually occurs. So a surrender plan is what they expect him to do, and it will be something as simple as put your hands up in the air, keep them up the entire time. So they will be talking him through what they want him to do, and to make sure that he understands what the police are telling him. The police, the negotiators, will ask him to repeat that back, so there is no miscommunication. So the instructions will be very simple, they will be very specific, and there'll be clarity around what is expected. There will be no ambiguity. He will have to comply with the police conditions. One thing that you think of in the surrender plan is that the possibility that he doesn't actually want to surrender. Because he says he wants to surrender does not mean that that is his intention. His intention could well be just to string out, for his own purpose, this whole event, because he might have something else in the back of his mind that he intends to do.
Well, Vince, let's have a look now at the threat posed to police by so-called sovereign citizens and people with a similar ideology to that. Do you think the police are responding in the right way? Do they really understand the threat that these people could pose to them at this point? Because they are anti-government and they are anti-police. We know that.
I think with the sovereign citizens, because they're anti-government and because they are anti-establishment, they generally do not have a cohesive organisation, because the very notion of being a sovereign citizen is to go against hierarchical order. So they are in themselves as an ideology not really cohesive as a group. And there hasn't been, to my knowledge, any consistency or any central leadership that's been formed. The disadvantage of that is that if they all act independently from each other, then that means that it will be harder for police to keep tabs on them as opposed to, say, an organised crime syndicate or an outlaw motorcycle gang or even the protests that we saw in Sydney over the weekend.
All right, so what then will police learn from this? If they have intelligence that an offender is anti-police, do they need to approach an offender with more force, or is a less confrontational approach better in that instance? How do they deal with this?
Yeah, so you often hear about de-escalation, with police generally and members of the public, but with people with, the sovereign citizen and other individuals who are wedded to an ideology, and that's what he is, he's wedded to an ideology, it's really difficult to know, because even if you went in with 2 police or 100 police, he's that indoctrinated and he believes in his cause so much that I don't think, as a former negotiator, it would make any difference to him about how the police approached it because of its inherent bias towards the establishment. So what is the better option? I think that it is based on a risk assessment. Generally speaking, they're not really that prone to direct violence to this extreme. And as I understand it, he had no crimes of violence. So that is an indicator that, if he had crimes of violence, then a different approach would have been taken.
Well, Vince, the police community, of course, is still dealing with the death of their colleagues in the line of duty. So I guess a key question is, how do police deal with this sort of situation?
Police will learn lessons from this, as they did with Malcolm Naden in New South Wales back in 2012.
It's taken 7 years, but the state's most wanted man is finally behind bars. Police called Malcolm Naden a master bushman, and he used those skills to elude capture by hiding in dense scrub. Mr Naden is wanted for murder and attempted murder.
But the thing is that they're looking at things retrospectively, and every individual who is wedded to an ideology is going to react differently. So if the police, for example, decided in the future, dealing with sovereign citizens or anyone who is wedded to a political ideology, that they need to be more heavy-handed, then of course there could be criticism of the police that they're being excessive. But at the end of the day, the police will gather the information and approach it as they see fit on an individual basis of the person.
So how long do you think this will last?
Samantha, if I had to guess, I would say it's spring, the weather's probably getting a bit warmer. I would say, and I'm speculating, that it could be at least 3 months. Hopefully it won't be, but that would not surprise me.
Dr. Vince Hurley was a New South Wales police officer for 3 decades and a hostage negotiator for 8 years. He's now a criminologist at Macquarie University. This episode was produced by Sydney Peed. Audio production by Sam Dunn. Our supervising producer is David Cody. I'm Sam Hawley. Thanks for listening.